flight again. No other fighter anywhere could do the Cobra. It seemed that the rumors were true after all. This was indeed a truly remarkable aeroplane. Its chief test pilot, Vladimir Ilyushin, was in no doubt at all.
Before flying this aircraft, I piloted vehicles of 142 different types, and always came to know that I was, so to say, more intelligent than a flying machine, and more capable than it was. In the case with the Sukhoi Su-27, it was the other way around. It appeared to be more intelligent than me. The aircraft is more capable than a pilot. So, in order to use its great potential, a pilot's self-perfection is essential. Moreover, when I piloted the Su-27 for the first time, I understood this was the aircraft you could wait all of your life. It's worth being a pilot of this fighter. On account of a delight I felt in the air, a smile doesn't vanish from my face till now. I'm sure that everyone who will pilot the fighter will feel the same way.
The Russian Navy had planned to build 4 new aircraft carriers to take them into the 21st century. In fact, only one was completed, but even that needed new aircraft. Sukhoi began by altering its basic Su-27 design by fitting canard foreplanes, an arrestor hook, a beefed-up undercarriage, a refueling probe, and twin nose wheels. Land trials were started at Sukhoi in the Crimea on a dummy landing deck with arrestor wires and a ski ramp for takeoff. It's understood that during these trials, at least one Su-27K was in fact lost. Other changes to the basic 27 were that the distinctive tail cone section was shortened to miss the deck on landing and rotating. There was also the plumbing available to carry an external fuel tank. Trials went on day and night until it was felt safe for Viktor Pugachev to find the aircraft carrier Tbilisi and to land on it for the first time. He refueled in the air and tracked in towards the carrier. Then lined up for his final approach. First time around was a touch and go just to get the feel of the pounding ship. Then a second attempt. Third time lucky. Yes, on the third attempt, he brought the flanker in for a perfect deck landing. Where Mikhail Simonov and the engineers and crew were waiting to give him a hero's welcome. Pugachev's historic landing was made on November the 1st, 1989. His takeoff run proved that the Su-27K could get into the air after a ski run of 100 meters, or 328 feet, with no catapult. It was soon the turn of his heir apparent, the young Yevgeny Frolov, to bring his aircraft in for a perfect landing on the Tbilisi. He got the customary welcome from the waiting crew. Later, the carrier changed its name to the Kuznetsov, and the aircraft uprated to the Su-33. The great rival for the naval contract came from Sukhoi's arch competitor in the form of the MiG-29 KVP. It too had wings that folded for stowage. To get full power before takeoff, the Russians use this very simple chocking system built into the deck. Once the aircraft is at full power, the retaining chocks simply disappear. Although the MiG was an equally fine aircraft, which had been well proven over the years, it was Sukhoi who won the contract to supply its 33s to the Russian Navy. However brilliant an aircraft seems, accidents and failures will happen, as this MiG-29 pilot found out. In the early stages of the flanker's development, the second prototype was lost in a fatal crash. A wing fault killed another pilot and nearly destroyed a second T-10. Fortunately, these two men lived to fly another sortie. To the uninitiated, both the MiG-29 and the Su-27 look very similar, but there are distinct differences. The Sukhoi is a much larger aircraft when you compare them closely. The MiG has a shorter nose and is not as drooped as the Sukhoi. Looking from above and behind, the Sukhoi has a much wider fuselage. The MiG cockpit seems smaller and slightly more cramped than its bigger brother, where there's not only more space, but the Sukhoi seems a lot more complex, and it looks a little more modern. But both look positively ancient compared to the American F-15 layout, with its state-of-the-art screens instead of old-fashioned dials. In fact, the whole Sukhoi program was developed because the F-15 Eagle was far away and ahead of anything the Russians had in the early 70s. Even in the F-15As, which went into service in 1976, the pilot sat high with an excellent all-round view, surrounded by analog instruments, with his head-up display on the windshield in front of him. The first F-15s to engage in combat were blooded by Israel on the 27th of June 1979, when they claimed 5 MiG-21s of the Syrian Air Force. The F-15E is a strike attack aircraft with a top speed of 1,650 miles an hour and a ferry range of 3,570 miles. Farnborough 1990 was the first time we'd seen the two-seater version of the Su-27, the Su-27UB. To all intents and purposes, the two-seater version could do everything that the single-seater could do in the capable hands of our old friend Yevgeny Frolov. At takeoff, it has a thrust-to-weight ratio of better than 1:1. That's an awful lot of poke. Frolov threw 22 tons of aircraft around the sky as if it were a small aerobatics plane, with lightning-quick spins and a huge cobra of over 120 degrees. Some argue that this maneuver is merely an airshow stunt. Others argue that in combat the aircraft can be slowed down so quickly that any hostile missile would find it very difficult to hit its target, and an enemy fighter on its tail may well overshoot the Su, just as the Harrier proved with its spectacular Viving maneuver. As Yevgeny